Today's video was requested by a single dad who said, "Help! I need help understanding periods and how to help my daughter." So that's what we're gonna do today. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Dr. Jennifer Lincoln, board-certified OBGYN, author, and educator, and today I'm talking about periods, which is why I've got my shirt on that says, "Phenomenally on my period." I'm not on my period, but I just love the shirt, and I got it as part of a collaboration with Phenomenal and Flow, which is a period tracking app that I make content for. This is in no way, shape, or form sponsored by any of them. I just thought it was a cool shirt. Anyway, so like I said in the intro, this was requested by a single father, and he said, "I really need help understanding periods, and I feel like there's not a lot of content out there for us dads. So this is for you." But it's not just for the guys, it's for anybody who has a menstruator in their life that they feel like they want to know more so they can help them better. Before I get started, go ahead and subscribe, turn on the notifications so you never miss an upload. Here's what I'm covering today: how to educate yourself about periods, how to educate your child about periods, products to use, products to avoid, and some tips. Stay tuned to the end. I've got a discount code for something I think you're really going to be interested in. Okay, quick review in case it's been a while since you took biology, but a period is something that happens approximately every month. What it is the blood and tissue that is released from the uterus every month after an egg has been released, has not been fertilized by a sperm. You don't get pregnant, and so your body says, "Oh, we don't need this extra lining that we built up in anticipation of a pregnancy." Because yes, our bodies are obsessed with trying to get pregnant every month. And that's what it is. It's about once a month, but it can be more irregular than that, especially in people who are first starting their periods, so very young people. The average amount of bleeding is about 5 to 7 days, but that can vary as well. And the average age for someone to get their period is around 12 to 13, but it can vary. If you want to know when your daughter or your menstruator might get her period, usually someone's period starts about 2 years after their breasts start to develop. I can't tell you exactly what day or what month your child will get their period, but give or take about 2 years after breast development. Another sign that their period might be coming is some increased vaginal discharge, and that's related to the fluctuation of hormones in their body. And I said periods can be a little irregular at first, so your child may have a period and they may not get one for another few months as their body adjusts. But usually within the first 2 to 3 years of starting their period, which is called menarche, their periods will regulate to about every 4 to 5 weeks. Let's talk about how to prepare your child for their period. The most important thing that you can do is education for yourself and for them. And if you're here watching it, you're already there. I highly encourage you, please don't wait until their first period to talk about their periods. It's all about preparation. But if that has already happened and you're here now, that's okay. When we know better, we do better, and we're ready to learn. So educating them about what the changes are in their body, what happens, what to expect. This is so important because it might not be covered in school, and you can ask their teachers to see what they're being taught about this, but it might not be covered, so you may need to fill in those gaps. And I've got you covered too in the references and resources section for great places you can go to help get these conversations going. The second thing that you can do is really break down the shame, and this starts when they're young. Don't call vaginas by weird names. Say vagina, uterus, periods. Don't use weird terms for periods. Like, just talk about it. It's a normal bodily function. So when you give them that vocabulary and you show them that you're not ashamed to talk about it, they internalize that and they know that they're not dirty or shameful. Have products on hand. As you can see, I've got a lot of stuff here in the background, and these are all pads and tampons and stuff. I'll talk about them in a minute. All from different companies. Nobody's sponsoring me, but just what I had on hand. And what's really important is to have this stuff on hand. Show her what a pad is, what a tampon is, all before her first period. So when it happens, she's not like, "Oh my God, I don't know how to use a pad." What is a really cool idea is to have a little kit of products in your bathroom, because periods don't tell us when they're coming, so she can be prepared. You might want to have, this is a bigger kind of overnight pad. We'll go into this in a little bit. You can have regular pads. You can have smaller panty liners. And you can have tampons if you think she might be interested in starting those. A lot of people don't like to use that right off the bat with their first period, but you never know. Have this in your bathroom, ready to go. Another way to prepare your child is to have a little period kit that they can keep in their backpack, because sometimes periods happen at school. So you can just take some of the products that we talked about, that you have in your little kit at home, and you just put them in here. And you can even, if she might be interested in period underwear, which we'll talk about, you can put a pair in there, and she just keeps it in her backpack, ready to go. Okay. Now I want to talk about how to prepare you, because you might be thinking, "Oh my goodness, I don't want to think about my little girl or my young child growing up and they're getting their period and now they can get pregnant. And oh my God, they're going to have sex one day." like deep breaths. So again, how to prepare you is educating yourself. So you're watching this video, you're learning about what periods are, what's normal, what's not, so that it doesn't feel scary or shameful and you're ready to engage in those conversations. I do want to mention a website that I think is awesome, and it's called Girlology. And don't be confused by the name. They have content for girls and guys. So if you're a parent of a teen boy, they've got great content there too. They have specific content and classes about periods. And so if you look here, you can scroll through this content. It's an annual subscription. The annual subscription is $47.99, which I think is a ridiculous deal for what you get. But if you use the code DrGen10, you'll get 10% off, which I think is fantastic. And I'm not getting sponsored by them. I just think their content is fabulous. When you look at their current period content, it's geared towards moms and daughters, but you can use it too, dads. And they've actually got specific content for dads coming in the future, so stay tuned. Another great way to help prepare yourself and your child is to take them to the gynecologist. The American College of OBGYN recommends a visit between the ages of 13 and 15. And it's really just for stuff like this, like talking about what to expect, what a period is, what are some signs that could be concerning, how to use a tampon. Does not mean she's going to have an exam, but it just helps her know that she's got someone else in her corner that she can talk to if she has concerns. And if you feel like you're struggling having these conversations with your teenager, we are more than happy to help facilitate those. As a dad or a parent of a menstruator, it's important to know what's abnormal. And you can see these up here. These are some general guidelines that if your child is having any of these symptoms, that it's important to reach out to us because it might be a sign that something's going on and we should at least check in. I would like to add to the list if your child is really struggling with PMS, whether physically, mentally, or emotionally. That's something that's not on the list and something I really recommend we check in about. Okay, let's talk products. But before we do that, let's have a look at my little shopping trip that I did earlier this morning to show you what it's like when you go to the grocery store and there's a ton of stuff in the aisles. Like, where do you even start?
Okay, here we go. Let's go shopping.
Look, grocery stores these days even sell menstrual cups, which I find really cool. Okay, so there's a ton of products here. So what can be helpful to know is that you've got pads and tampons. So what you can see here, this is how you can know how heavy, how much it'll be able to hold. So these are always overnight pads here. What you definitely want to go for is unscented. Avoid any fragrances. And how cool is this? I did not know that Always was making period underwear. We'll talk more about that in my video, but that's cool. Some brands have stuff specifically marketed to teens, and it's really a marketing thing. In most grocery stores these days, you can even find cups. Yes, of course, they've got the whole organic thing. And just like with tampons, you've got the same thing here. They're going to tell you based on the drops just how much it is able to absorb. Once again, you want to go for unscented. As you can see here, underwear and pads sometimes have these little metrics here to figure out like which number you would get. It feels very scientific. I do want to point out that period products are different from products made for urinary leakage. So let's take a look. So these are products that are for urinary leakage. And I know you might be like, duh, Jen, but sometimes it can be hard to tell. So these are not what you're wanting to buy. The fact that I can't find any scented tampons or pads is a really good thing. So I'm actually very pleased with that. But you definitely want to avoid scents. And just in case you happen to pass by this is all garbage that you and your teen don't need. So I like to come here and just try to make people realize that this is all garbage, but that's a talk for another day. Apparently this is real life. Now I come to grocery stores and play with tampon boxes. Okay, time to go home. That was fun. Okay, that's a lot of stuff, right? It was also my first time ever filming in the wild. It was kind of fun. Okay, so first let's talk about pads. You saw that I mentioned in that little shopping trip that you can see pads vary in size and absorbency. So it's good just to kind of have a variety on hand, especially as your child is first getting their period. So there's bigger ones like overnight pads. Then there's what we call more regular sized pads. These are from August and Bloom. Again, I have no affiliation to any of these companies, but I will mention August, and I am on their medical board, but I don't get paid. What's really cool about that company, and I'll have their link below, is that they have subscription services so that you can just get products mailed to your house, so you don't even have to worry about going out to the store to buy stuff, or if your child feels embarrassed, even though they shouldn't, I understand. So getting stuff shipped to you automatically, I think is super cool. So you can check them out. And there's tons of different brands. Sometimes it's just trial and error. I would say, like I mentioned in the video, with all products, avoid fragrances and scents. Number one, very irritating to the vulvar skin. Number two, vulvas and vaginas aren't supposed to smell like raspberries, and it sets up the shame spiral. So you don't need scents. And what's really cool with your kid, just get a pad, open them up, and just kind of show them kind of how they work. So on the back side, you've got the sticky part that'll go in their underwear. And most pads have wings, which I really like because that goes around the underwear and it helps to hold it on. And you can kind of just play with them. And do you know what it does for your kid if they see their dad or their parent is like, let's talk about pads? It shows them that it's totally normal and not dirty. So if they ever have a partner down the line who, let's say, they get their period, and their partner is like, ooh, you're on your period? Like, I don't want to, whatever. They're going to think, wait a minute, my parents told me that periods aren't dirty or shameful, but my partner is now doing this? Like, forget you. So you are empowering them from a very young age to speak up for themselves. Pads on average should be changed about every 4 to 8 hours, but really it's just about when they feel soaked, then that's when you change them. Okay, moving on to liners. Think of them like a little pad. So these are really good for light days. They can either come like this or they might come wrapped up like that. These can be good for spotting, or if you have a tampon in and you're worried that you might leak around it, you can use these products. Again, they often have a sticky thing on the back, and that's the part that you peel off and put in your underwear. Remember, don't use anything with scents. Okay, let's talk tampons, but let's also have a moment for this cup that my friend, one of my sorority sisters, my big sister in my sorority actually made for me. And I love her dearly because she knows me. So when it comes to tampons, there are 3 main types, and they have to do with the applicator. So those with like a plastic applicator, those with a cardboard applicator, and those that have no applicator that just have the tampon that you kind of place in with your finger. Those are a bit tricky for people first learning how to use tampons. And the basic way that a tampon works is you put it in the vagina and you push forward on the plunger, take it out, and this is what's left behind. Lots of great content on how to use tampons and show your child how to place tampons in that Girlology period package that I talked about earlier. I will say for most people who are starting out to use a tampon, those with a plastic applicator, it's just easier to place, but you might worry about the environmental impact. I totally hear you. I will say the plastic applicators that August uses decomposes much more quickly because it's a plant-based substance and not a traditional plastic substance. So food for thought. And tampons, you may think, oh my goodness, if my daughter uses them, she's not a virgin anymore. Go ahead and watch my Losing Your Virginity YouTube video to just dive into that. And the short version is that's totally false. If you've heard about toxic shock syndrome and you're worried about that, rest assured that is extremely rare and is related to tampons that were very absorbent and left in for a very long time. So you should not leave your tampons in longer than 8 hours. And if you go past that, that risk for TSS increases, but again, still super rare. Okay, one of my favorite new things on the block, which is no longer new, but it definitely wasn't that big when I was first getting my period, are menstrual cups. So these are reusable products that sit in the vagina, collect the period blood, and then you empty out and you rinse them off and you replace them. There are these disc shapes. There are these more traditional stem shapes. There are some that are disposable. These are reusable. Super cool, and it might be a little tricky for your menstruator to first learn how to use them, but Gen Z these days, they're freaking awesome, and they're environmentally friendly, and a lot of young people are on board with these. Not going to go into detail a whole lot about how to place these or use these. Maybe that's a topic for another day, but there is that content on that Girlology website. And lastly, period underwear. So as you saw in the grocery store, I didn't know there was disposable period underwear, which tells you how often I'm going down that aisle. I have a Mirena IUD, so I don't get a period, so I don't need any of that stuff anymore. But anyway, that was really cool. But there's also reusable period underwear from different companies. And it's just what it sounds like. It's underwear that you can wear during your period and you rinse out and you wash and you can use them again and again. I think these are amazing for teenagers, especially those who are worried they might get their period at school. So they've got them on or they've got them on hand. And it's really nice too, especially when they're first getting used to period products, because if they're worried about any overflow leaks, the period underwear can resorb that. So super cool. If you have any questions about those products or want more information on how to use them, go ahead and drop a question in the comment section below. Okay, 3 big things that I want you as a parent of somebody who's just getting their period to know and avoid. Number 1, I've said this many times, but I want you to avoid any products with fragrances. Like I said, they're very irritating and they're completely unnecessary. Number 2, I want you to avoid buying your child special products now that she might have a period. You saw that Summer's Eve and that Vagisil, all of that stuff is garbage. I've discussed why it's bad in other videos, so you can go ahead and check that out right here. But you do not need them, and they're completely unnecessary. They're actually very harmful. And the fact that you can tell your child this, and I encourage you to have this very direct conversation with them, will set them up for success in the future, I'm promising you. And third, I want you to avoid shame or fear. Studies have actually shown that how parents frame periods, especially mothers, how they talk about their own period actually influences their child's perception of their periods and themselves. Meaning that moms who said, oh my God, I hate that time of the month. It's horrible. It's terrible. I can't do anything. Their children are more likely to rate their periods as more painful and more disruptive to their lives. Meaning that how you frame it makes a difference. So instead of saying, oh, your monthly curse is here, or well, now you can get pregnant, so you better not have sex, you can say, hey, this is a sign that your body is growing and changing. Let's talk about it. What questions do you have? I want you to know that you can come to me and ask these questions. You're setting them up for success, you're giving them resources, and you're empowering them to talk to you in the future and make good choices. Okay, that was a lot. That was sort of our crash course in first periods for your kid if you're a single dad, a single parent, or anybody who's got a menstruator in your life. If you've got any more questions, things that you want me to go more into, go ahead and drop them in the comments. And like I said, I've got a lot of good content in the references and resources section if you want to learn more. Thank you so much. Go ahead and follow me and Dr. Jennifer Lincoln for more content like this on Instagram and TikTok, and I'll see you around. Until next time, happy menstruating.